My 34F neighbor won't leave my 30M husband alone. I'm not really sure where to start, so I'll just begin where I first felt uncomfortable. Me, 26F, and my husband, 30M, were drinking, sitting by a fire in our backyard a few months ago. We have metal fence surrounding our backyard so the people who live beside us can clearly see into our backyard. Our new neighbor, 34F, had came home, and as she was walking out of her garage, she noticed us and came to our fence line and started making casual conversation with us. We all talked for about 30 minutes getting to know each other. She noticed we were drinking, so she decided to start drinking too. We talked for about another 30 minutes and she made the comment about me and my husband going inside after this to get it on, while she's going to sleep alone because the guy she's seeing isn't acting right. I felt weird after that, but I decided to brush it off. I start noticing that every time my husband is outside in our backyard, she eventually comes outside in her backyard, and sometimes she would strike up a conversation. I didn't think anything of it until I noticed that she never does that with me. Occasionally she'll talk to me, but not often like she does with him. She eventually gets both of our numbers. She said she'd be out of town and wanted us to watch the house to make sure no one came there. Without her knowing, she then starts calling him and asking for simple favors a few days later. Examples: could he put a dog crate together? Could he fix things in her house? Could he bring dog food into her home since she has a bad back? My best friend saw her bring in the dog food herself one day. And etc. She's always giving excuse on why her boyfriend can't do it, basically making it out that he's a boss and won't do anything for her. A sob story. Always. Here lately things have really progressed. One day I had taken our kids to play at the park, and when I returned home, she was in my driveway chatting with my husband as he was working in the backyard. She quickly went into her house after I returned home. This past weekend we were sitting outside watching our kids play. She had came over and sat down to talk to us while her daughter played with our kids. I was talking about how my husband always loses his keys or wallet and I always have to find them for him. She ignored what I said and was laughing and looking at him about how she had to find his keys that was sitting on his dashboard of his truck last week. I gave her a dirty look, and that's when she added that she was on her side of the fence when she saw them laying there. The next day she called him and asked if he could go pick up a rug for her because it wouldn't fit into her car and her boyfriend wouldn't do it. My husband respectfully told her no because we were in the middle of hanging out with our kids. The next day after that, she had called him to let him know to be careful working today because there are bad storms on the way. She said she didn't know if I was home or not, but mind you, my car was parked out in front of her house the whole entire day. I just want to add that my husband also thinks her behavior is strange and calls it out along with me. He is a very loving person and is always willing to help others. He's always been open and honest with me about everything when I wasn't at home. And I know he is absolutely crazy about me or I wouldn't have married him. Our neighbor also has strabismus. No offense to anyone who does. So I know he's not physically attracted to her, so there's no thought in my mind that they are having an affair. Sometimes I feel crazy for thinking she's into my husband, but her demeanor has always rubbed me the wrong way. My intuition is telling me that she wants my husband, but she does things in such a passive, aggressive way that makes her look innocent. Should I approach her about her behavior towards my husband? I think your husband needs to shut her down more often and firmly till she backs off. If you say anything, she'll just assume you're a controlling, jealous wife and might be delusional enough to think she still has a shot with him. Your husband needs to shut this down. Not you. Obviously. You're not threatened, just annoyed. Being annoyed you can control with empathy. She is clearly a lonely, socially awkward woman with a crush on your husband. He sounds like a good husband, so her crush is understandable. But her actions are inappropriate. Ultimately, they are directed at your husband this far. She hasn't been nasty to you or your daughter. So shutting her down is firmly in his court. He needs to start ignoring her. Not entirely. That would be cruel. But aside from a, "Hey there, I'm heading out. Have a nice day," there shouldn't be any additional conversation. It's called gray walling. Respond with the least amount of words and inflection as possible. If she texts him, he should ignore it. If it's a reasonable request, pick up a package when she's out of town, he should tell you and then you respond to her. If she asks why he didn't respond to her texts, he should just say, "Oh, I was busy," and drop it. If this doesn't curb the behavior, you also might consider getting a taller fence for your yard. It's harder to strike up conversations when you can't see into the yard. Your husband is the one doing all these errands for her. He needs to stop this. Cut off the small talk early. Stop answering the phone when she calls. Politely decline and say he's busy when she asks him for favors, etc. People won't honor your boundaries if you don't set them. She's not an elderly woman who can't do things on her own. And it's not his problem that her boyfriend is a bum. No is a complete sentence. Well, for starters, your husband can block her number on his phone. If she needs something, she can call you. I suspect you won't have a tough time telling her no on behalf of your husband. If he's outside working or with the kids and she decides to descend on him, he can make a polite excuse and disengage. "Sorry, this isn't a good time to chat. I need to finish up this thing. Get the kids ready for dinner. Etc. And then exit. Or you can interject with, "Sorry. I need my husband for something," and extract him that way. If she asks for favors, "Sorry, I'm not available." Eventually, she'll get the hint. Your husband may be loving and caring, but in this instance you have a husband problem. He should be the one setting boundaries. If you tried it, it'll just make her think you're jealous and she will actually believe she has a chance or something. Why hasn't husband shut her down already? He should 1. Stop answering her calls. 2. Leave her messages on read. 3. If she asks for favors in person, he should tell her he's busy. If she pushes, he should tell her firmly not to push his boundaries. 4. Whenever she tries to chat with him while he's outside, he should tell her that he's busy and not really in the mood to chat. 5. If she then says something like, "Oh, does your wife get jealous?" or whatever, he should simply say, "No, I just have no interest talking to you." You both need to stop being so pleasant to this woman and make your distaste visible. Your husband needs to block her number like yesterday. No more favors at all. I would also tell her directly she is being inappropriate and treating your husband like her own, which needs to stop. Your husband needs to be a part of this conversation as well, because he has been doing all these favors for her. My husband is generally non-confrontational. I have no issues with it. He uses me as an excuse all the time, which I told him I'm fine with. For example, when someone asks him to do something he doesn't want, he says, "Let me ask my wife first," and he just texted me today lol when someone posted doing this because he does it as well. You and your husband are being too nice to this lady who is clearly after your husband. If she asks your husband for a favor again, he needs to say no. It is inappropriate and makes me uncomfortable. Do you know what you can do when you want to distance yourself from someone? Take longer to reply and ignore their phone calls. Your husband can do this too. It is simple. Your husband needs to block her number and not engage in the small talk. I would also consider putting up a wooden fence so she can't see into your yard anymore. I had a neighbor like this and she was a nightmare. Constantly glaring at me whenever my partner wasn't around but being super friendly when he was. Always knocking on our door wanting something. Of course I was the one who looked like a crazy controlling girlfriend even though I could tell what she was doing face with rolling eyes. She needs to be reminded that he is your husband. Hey neighbor, I'm noticing you talking a lot more to husband than to me. Are we not friends? 2. Put her on the spot. It's passive-aggressive but that seems to be how she's behaving. Is it possible she may have a delay? Please, I'm not judging anyone who does. And has now chosen your husband as her favorite person? The whole mentioning your sexual activity is really gross. Though, I agree with husband blocking her number and making you the only line of contact. Please stop talking or be kind and put her on her bloody place. She is after your husband, so why are you allowing that attitude? Both of you must end that play of hers and cut her out. Block her number on both of your phones. Told her to leave you alone and about her stuff to be fixed in her house. I am pretty sure she can find another person than a married man. If she don't, then she have to call a professional like everyone and stop flirting with your husband. Also, your man must speak out and stop being take advantage knowing she have a thing on him. Why is your husband entertaining this woman? Your husband needs to shut this down before you guys end up in a fatal attraction situation. It is great that he is a nice guy and willing to help, but she is taking advantage. We all know why she has a bad back. Now work on complete dominance by ensuring every time she comes outside to talk to your husband you come out with nothing but a towel on. Say come on honey. Every time she texts him, tell him you will do a favor for him to not go or respond. He will never respond and she will eventually go away. Plus side is you and your husband have a ton of fun with it. Yeah, if you do it, it's going to just create conflict. Your husband needs to be the one to shut her down. I'm on your side here. But our neighbor also has strabismus. No offense to anyone who does. So I know he's not physically attracted to her. Damn. What an ugly thing to say. Adding, no offense, literally means nothing. I'm so confused why either of you are entertaining her BS. You have a husband problem, not a neighbor problem. Husband needs to block her and tell her in person to stop bothering him and your guy's family. She has overstepped her welcome. Done. Check mark. If your husband does not do this, he is getting something out of being needed. My advice: start needing him a lot. Your husband needs to set stronger boundaries and stick with them. If you do it, she's not going to respect the boundaries because she'll think they're coming from you and not him. And this last part is really incredibly rude, so you might want to delete it. There's nothing wrong with crossed eyes, lazy eyes, etc. Our neighbor also has strabismus. No offense to anyone who does. So I know he's not physically attracted to her. Some people are stating that I have a husband problem, but some of you are failing to understand that we are kind, generous and helpful people. We both grew up with nothing and we know what it's like to have a hard life. We know what it's like to struggle, so we have sympathy for people who also struggle and we're always there to help if we can. We have compassion for others. At first I felt bad for the woman. She's a single working mom without any help from her child's father. And we knew she was in a not so stable relationship and one of her family members passed away the beginning of this year. We felt bad for her. I actually encouraged my husband to help her in the beginning because it seemed like she had no one. Now we realize that she's taking advantage and also crossing lines, and we will put up more boundaries with her. But some are saying we should completely block her and act like she doesn't even live right next to us. She's our neighbor. We literally can't get rid of her even if we wanted to. And we can't just pick up and move. Why would we want to come home and dread the tension between our neighbor if we happen to be in our backyard hanging out and she happens to come outside in her backyard? Awkward. We are not confrontational people. Plus our daughters talk to each other through the fence who are very young and don't know any better. It's not that simple of a situation to just avoid all in general. I wish though. My husband will definitely start ignoring her more, but we're also trying to keep the peace while living next to each other. No one wants to dread coming home. We need to handle it respectfully and set more boundaries. Thank you for everyone's help.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.